Sharing with you in this video how to let go of your old identity and become the person you have always wanted to be. I strongly believe that when we're creating something new, we have to let go of something old, something that we don't want. It sounds very cliche, it sounds really sort of airy-fairy, but it's nonetheless the truth. And the first thing that I want to share with you in this video in terms of how to actually do this is really to start off with a question. And that question to you is there still an option to go back to whatever it is that you don't want to do, to be whatever it is that you don't want to be? Is there still an option? Like, let's just say there's a habit, there's a way of being that 100% is stopping you from becoming something better, from improving your life in some type of way. Is there like an option for you? Like, is that a safety net for you? Because the claim that I'm making here is that if it's still an option, if there's still an option to go back, if there's still an option to be something that you don't really resonate with, you haven't reached the point of no return. And when I say the point of no return, I mean on a positive note, in a positive direction. Because here's the claim is that when you realize that there's simply no option for you to go back, like you just have nothing left in you, like there's just no more possibility that you are going to continue doing something that is not serving you, whatever that thing is, because you know that it's eating away at your life force. We only have a certain amount of time in the day. We all have the same amount of time, which is 24 hours. But why is it that some people seemingly have more energy, get more done, are more productive, are happier within that period of time? I think the solution, and one of the biggest keys, is to realize not just what you want. Like, you could easily commit to what you want and write it down and fully commit, and you might be fully committed. You might be fully committed. It's not that you have a lack of commitment or that you have a lack of clarity on the decision that you made in terms of who you want to be. I think that oftentimes it's not just knowing what you want, it's also getting very, very clear on what you will absolutely not tolerate in your life. You will no longer include as a part of your identity, as a part of your state of consciousness. You just won't do it. You will not tolerate it. So I think that in order to quote unquote be successful, whatever your version of success is, whether it's focused on an input, which just means an action, or whether it's an output, which is getting a result. However you decide to see success, I believe that no matter which version you want to look at, it's going to be very important for you to get to that point of no return and exactly realizing what you do not want, what you do not like, what you do not prefer. Now, maybe in the bigger picture, you could say that it's okay for it to exist, but not in your reality. Nothing, like, it's okay, it's fine, like it's okay for it to, it's not bad, like necessarily, but it can be bad somewhere else, not in your space, not in your space of consciousness, because it's not for you. And whether we want to talk about existentially, whether it's good or bad, we'll save that for another time. What about for you? For you, it's bad. For you, has to be no more option, no more possibility. You just can't go back. So how does this happen? You have to do it enough to realize the pain, because there's two directions that, yes, it's going to sound cliche, that drive a human being forward. It's definitely the vision of where they want to go, which is of course what you want, but it's also the pain of where you don't want to be anymore. This is what I think people neglect and are a little bit afraid to look at, because you can't have, I'm sorry to tell you, but you can't just have what you want without also focusing on the negative and what you don't want. And when I say focus on it, I mean get clarity on it. Get clarity on what you don't want. So make it so that it's so painful for you, causes you so much suffering, you realize that negativity so much associated with being some other type of way, you realize it's absolutely not your preference, you absolutely do not want it, so that then you just have more energy. You don't know why, you just have more energy to do stuff. You have more energy to focus on your goals, on your vision, on your identity, and your preference. So I believe that a big part of this process is becoming aware of what we do not want, and then as a result, we naturally will transform into the person that we actually prefer, that we actually want to be. And so the second part of this video that I really want to share, that I believe is a big part of this, is to simply raise your standards. Raise your standards. So what does it mean? What are your standards? So on one level, there's something that you will not tolerate, but then of course it goes back to what you want, which is what is your normal standard? Because you might, let's just say, make a certain amount of money per month. It's the classic example. You might have a standard where it's okay for you to make a certain amount of money per month. But what does your new standard have to be? Let's say you want to make a certain amount of money per month. Well, what's your current standard? And can you raise that? Can you raise that standard? Can you make something that might be sort of out there for you, that might be a little bit crazy, that might put you in a little bit of fear, put you a little bit on edge? Can you make that normal? Can you make that your new standard? And I think that this is a powerful concept that can allow us to make it so that your new standard is not that you have to try to let go of some old version of yourself. You have to try it, but you need to go on a 21-day challenge to stop doing the thing. To stop doing the thing, because I'm gonna go on that now, and you know what? It's like you're gonna try really hard this month. You're gonna try really hard, and it's like, why does this fail? Because we all know deep in our hearts, let's be honest with ourselves, that this plan and strategy has a very small percentage of sort of succeeding. It doesn't succeed most of the time. At least in my life, it never did. And so what I realized is that there has to be an internal shift, sort of like this internal decision to be something different, to be something new. And until that shift occurs, you will not change. You will be the same person. You will look at your life 10 years from now, and however you're being, whatever way of life you're being, even if you tell yourself this motivational speech of how you're going to be different and you're going to try your best, you're not going to change until you realize the pain of where you are is unacceptable and that your new standard is now increased. That's the truth of the matter here, is that you're never going to change until that point happens. Until you realize, this thing in my life, no longer going to tolerate it. This is my new normal way of being. You will continue to create the same patterns, and in 10 years from now, you will be the same person. And are you okay with that? And possibly I'm exaggerating slightly, but it's a good perspective to have. If you don't change your habits, if you do keep being the same person, are you okay with the result that you're going to get 10 years from now? And you might think, well, that's a little bit scary. I don't want to look at that. But why? Why not visualize a little bit? Why let it get to that point? Would you rather have this conversation with me and you right here and have a visualization session of what it might look like if you don't raise your standards and feel into the pain of that with a quick little visualization exercise? Or would you rather experience it? I don't feel bad about asking you this question because that's where you're headed. And if your answer is, I'm totally happy with where I'm going 10 years from now, then this video and this concept maybe doesn't apply to you, and you're totally fine. You're totally fine because your trajectory is a good one. Your standard is, you're happy with your standard. You're okay with your standard. And I'm not going to stand here and investigate your standards and tell you whether they're wrong or right. The question is, are you happy with them? Are you okay with them? Whether they're wrong or good or bad, let's just save that for next time. Are you okay with where you're headed though? Are you okay with your current trajectory that you're headed on? So if you keep, again, taking action the same way with little to no change, who are you going to become? Who will you be? And is that for you okay? So the final thing that I want to share with you in this video is really to make quote unquote success, again, whether success is an input, whether it's an action that you can control, or whether you believe that success is something that you really can control, which is an output, which is achieving a result or getting your business to do well or getting the thing that you want in the external. These are all outputs. I believe that we cannot control whether we're successful, whether we are in good health even, But we can control the inputs. You can control how you act. You can control what you eat. You can control how you operate. You can control, to the best of your abilities, your internal world, the way that you think. You can control not believing in a negative emotion. And when you feel a negative emotion, if that comes up, it's debatable whether that's within your control. But do you have to believe in the negative emotion? So whether we are going to look at success as an external phenomena that you quote unquote achieve in your life, that you quote unquote have, even though you don't really have anything, you don't own anything in the external world. Even if you own your house on paper, you don't own anything in the external world, because it will all be taken away from you, including your own body. Nothing you have is really what you have. I think the only thing that we have, quote unquote, is the control over the inputs in our life, the way that we are. Now again, I don't want to digress further. However you want to see success, whatever spectrum you're on in terms of what your definition of success is, you can Google the definition of success, you can create your own definition of success, you can use whatever spectrum you land on. You have to make quote unquote success, whatever it is, non-negotiable. So there's no reality where you don't achieve what you want to achieve. It's not going to happen. It's not going to happen where you don't get what you want. You have to think like that. And it's not to be to have so much ego and so much pride that you think that the whole world revolves around you and that you're the main character of everything. You are the main character, and the world, quote unquote, does revolve around you to some degree, but to another degree, you can't just call somebody at like 4 a.m. that you don't really know and expect a positive response unless that person's like super nice. Like for example, we have social norms. We have certain ways of being that are quote unquote positive and negative. So you can't just control people. You can't control circumstances. You can't control anything in the external, but you have to be internally committed. You have to have a conviction that can you control people? No, you can't. Can you control circumstances? No, you can't. Can you control how much money hits your bank account per month? No, you really can't. Can you control how much success you achieve in your life? Not really. You really can't control any of these things. None of these things are within your control. None of these things are within your power. But you can make it an internal decision that you will absolutely do every single possible thing in your power that you can control and take control of those variables. Does that make sense? So you need to write down on a piece of paper if you want to succeed, if you want to quote unquote be successful in any regard. Get clear on the inputs. Who do you have to be to get what you want? Who do you have to stop being to get what you want? If you continue being that old way, are you going to be happy? And make sure you're very clear on what the inputs are. So you can control if you get 10,000 customers, to your product. You can control making a product. You can control walking to 10,000 doorsteps and offering your product. You can't control how many yeses you get in business. You just can't. People are going to say no. People are going to refuse. People will reject your offer. But can you control how many offers you make? Can you control how many people you talk to? How many conversations you have? You can control how many conversations you have. You might think like, I tried really hard on my business today. There was another person that worked twice as hard and had 20 more conversations, and all those areas, all that time you spent complaining about stuff that you couldn't control, somebody else did 5 times the amount of work in those areas, and all that energy and life force and time that you used complaining about things that are literally out of your control, somebody else took the initiative, took the courage to continue taking action and focus on all the variables that they can control, that are within their power. And I think that this is a really powerful concept, because what can start to happen is that we start to feel more empowered. Why do we feel empowered? We start to feel empowered because we are absolutely, again, taking control over the things that we actually have power over, that we can actually control, right? Where does suffering come from? Where does anxiety come from? It's really, in my opinion, not taking action on something that you absolutely know you have the ability to take action on. You should feel anxious, you should feel guilty, and you should feel shameful. Like if you want to be a person of integrity and you want to be a person of honor and respect, like if you know that something is bad and you keep doing it, you should feel guilty. And I believe that you should feel the pain of that and the negativity of that, because you want to at some point become so uncomfortable with the result of making a bad decision that you just make the right decision. You know, how does somebody become more wise? Unfortunately, what people don't want to remember is that usually the most wise people, the most grounded people, are the people that experienced the most pain in their life. Whether it was self-created, that they made a mistake, or whether it was something that was completely out of their hands, that person absolutely went through lots of suffering to get to a point where they can be very wise. Maybe they made a lot of mistakes. Like, why do you think a person can be such a good decision maker? Because possibly they made extremely poor decisions in their past. And so they know, they have a knowing. There's no need to like when you get to that point, it's a knowing. It's a knowing. It's not a hope. It's not a, oh, I hope I made the right choice. And you might really, you might not know if you're making the right choice, truthfully speaking. But you also know that there's no alternative, because going back to the same choice, you know is definitely not the right decision. So making a new decision, maybe you don't know if that's the right decision. You're going into the unknown. There's a certain level of uncertainty in this new identity that you're creating. Possibly. But again, one thing you know for sure is that you can't go back. And that's the point of no return that I want you to get as you're watching this video, if you haven't already, because I believe that once we reach the point of no return, this is where true growth, true transformation, and true change can and will absolutely happen. If you want to see magic in your life, if you want to see beautiful change, if you want to actually become a different person, if you want to really transform, I believe that we have to get to this point of quote unquote no return. There's no going back from this, because once you realize the pain of the past, you can't repeat it anymore. You can't repeat the same mistakes. And if you do, you will feel a lot of negativity and a lot of shame, and you should feel that. And I'm not saying that anybody should create negativity for themselves. That's not what I'm saying. I don't want you to misconstrue what I'm saying or misunderstand what I'm communicating to say that you should create emotions of guilt and shame and negativity. No, I'm saying that if you made a bad choice, maybe you need to face the consequences of that. Because everything in life has consequences. You can't just take an action and expect there not to be a reaction, right? There's consequences to the decisions that you're making. And so I think that if we can make more conscious choices and fully face those consequences, we will learn faster. We will become a person of more integrity, more honesty, much more naturally without forcing it, because we know the alternative of being the same thing. When you become a person that is so 100% clear on the fact that you don't want something, you become a very clear conduit and a very clear sort of, you become this person that it becomes very easy to take action on your vision, because you don't see another path. You don't see an alternative. Like, there's no alternative. What's the alternative? To be the same? To go backwards? It should disgust you. If going back to the old way that you used to be, that is not resonating with your current new vision, if it doesn't disgust you, you haven't reached that point of no return yet. You might need to be a little bit more disgusted, a little bit more agitated, and feel a little bit more negative about doing the things that you know you shouldn't be doing, to then finally make the change. And that's okay. There's nothing wrong with that. But the question is, can we speed up this process? It's like, well, are you just saying for me to go back and to just be negative, to then realize that I don't want to do this anymore? Not necessarily. If that's what you believe you have to do, then so be it. I'm not inviting and encouraging you to go do something negative than to feel negativity. It's like, well, isn't that what you're saying? No, that's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that with a person like me in this video, asking you a question, is it possible that just having an exercise to imagine your life in the future, that's enough? You know, is it possible that you can take that possibility, see that possibility, not be okay with it, and then change it? Because what if you don't have to experience 10, 20, 30 more years of repeating the same mistakes in order to be successful, in order to finally change? What if you can just think about it? Just think about it. Think about your future, contemplate where you're going, and then if you're not happy with that, then don't be afraid to investigate that, to look at that a little bit more, because again, that's where you're headed. So my invitation to conclude this video is to be okay with imagining your future where it is right now. If you make no changes, if you continue to do the same things, are you going to be okay with your future? And if you're not, that shouldn't make you sad. That shouldn't make you wallow in your pain even more, and then to double down on the things that you're not happy with and to keep creating it. It should be an eye-opener for you to change. Because 99% of change is awareness of the pain, of the thing that you do not want. A lot of people, they simply are very stubborn and they keep recreating the same negative experiences because they're too stubborn to believe that they're not really happy, that they're not actually happy with who they're being. It's like, oh, I'm not angry, I'm completely happy. It's like, are you? Are you really? Like, if somebody was happy, would they defend themselves? Or would they walk away and be better? You know, a person that is truly interested in change, truly interested in transformation, won't really have a desire to prove to themselves, to you, why they're going to be better. They won't argue with you. They won't have time. Like, don't you ever notice that the people that have the most time to complain and to argue and to have fights about things, like that person in, you know, let's say you're at a store and somebody's yelling at the cashier for like no reason, just yelling at everybody, miserable person, miserable, when you see a genuinely miserable person, like a person that just inflicts evil and negativity onto themselves and others, you know, haven't you ever noticed that this person has no vision, no desire to be better? Like, they've stopped learning. You can almost see negativity in their eyes. They're almost dead. And when I say dead, I mean that in, of course, a metaphorical way, but possibly even the most real way. Like, if you're not learning, you're probably slowly digressing. And if you're, regressing, if you're regressing and slowing down, and if you're not becoming better, where are you really headed? Which direction are you going in? Are you okay with that? Are you okay with that alternative?